Hello and welcome everyone. You join me here in a code window. Ooh, scary. We haven't been here in a while, and the reason is because, as you can see in the repo name, we're working on some YouTube automation today. Now, what is said YouTube automation? Well, I have a problem. Essentially, for videos, I like to include some background music. Sometimes I don't always enjoy making that background music myself, or rather inserting that background music myself. So I'd much rather have a script that can autofill the background music into the video track or background music. Now, the reason it is specifically a video track, if I load up Shortcut here for Mars First Logistics 13, we can see, for example, at the beginning of afterlife.webm, there is a small drop down that shows what the name of the song is, what the artist is, and there's a nice little animation as it drops down. So music in my videos is a transparent video that gets applied on top of the other video sources. This is essentially my process. So what I would like to happen is instead that I can select a start position and an end position with two markers, select a start and end point, and I would like the script to randomly autofill in between those two markers any of my songs. For example, Still Not Right, which sounds like that. Now, I specifically say randomly because I don't want any two videos to sound the same, and I say autofill because the goal is, as you can see in the timeline here, there is some gap in between songs. A small amount, a large amount, small. It varies over time. So what we essentially want to be doing is a random bin packing algorithm with some padding, with a minimum and a maximum padding distance. So for example, we might say there can be 5 seconds to 20 seconds between songs. Now we use this because I don't want duplicate songs per video. I do not like the idea of, playing, for example, Still Not Right, going along playing just a jazz space, then three white people, then two of us, and then Still Not Right comes back on afterwards. I don't like that. So in our random selection, we will have to determine the remaining song time and essentially try to fit in new songs plus the padding allowed. And if we end up with not enough space to fit in this, we can reduce this padding. So this will then autofill our scene with songs, which is exactly what I want to happen. And I can't remember how to get rid of... Oh no, I can. It's Ctrl-Shift-M. The problem is, Shortcut doesn't allow direct scripting access. So what we actually need to do is open the .mlt file, which sounds scary, but if I open up the project for Mars First Logistics 13 and read it, we can see it's actually just an XML file with, some information. For example, the height, the width, the frame rate, there it is. And we can see, look, this chain appears to be some video source. And for example, it is this recording, which I did on this time. There you go, a little peek behind the curtain. And you can see the frame rate, you can see all of these different details about the image. And there's also some playlist objects. For example, this one, which contains chain 0, chain 1, producer 2, chain 2, chain 3, chain 4, chain 5, all of these things. This playlist with entries, where chain 2, for example, is... If I scroll further back up, chain 2 is this song. So what we were looking at there was a representation of this video playlist here in XML format. So essentially what we instead need to do, pass as XML and then reconstruct the shortcut expected playlist according to our song type. And then finally we can reload the video and songs should appear. The only other point of detail I would like to make is, if I go back to this internal XML structure, there is a playlist, which is this one. And if we go a bit further down, I believe it's near the bottom of the file, we will see... yes, here. playlist, playlist 3. It contains some properties, it contains, there was a minute of silence, then we put in chain 41, which equates to the Palace Gardens. And then there was a blank space, then song entry, blank song entry. And at the very bottom is a filter, because what I like to do is keep the songs at the same volume, but apply a filter to the entire track of -20 decibels, so it's background music. So, and apply the filter to the track. So with all that in mind, essentially what we need to do is write some code that understands how to construct this object from, all of the song references, such as these ones up here. It needs to understand how to find what songs are and which it can apply, and it needs to parse this looking for things such as their length. And with all of that in place, it should then be able to do the random bin packing, reconstruct this, and then we are golden. So that is my plan. That is what I will spend an amount of time doing. And, well, I guess I'll just hand you off over to editing me. I guess live me? I don't really know. It feels weird calling me live me. But yes, editing me. Look forward for the code time-lapse, I guess. Anyway, yes, you might drop in if there's anything funny or insightful or funny. And I will see you at the end of all of this video to give another live demonstration of it working. Assuming I get it working, and I don't just quit, and you never see this video because it was a dumb idea. Anyway, see you then! Alright, yeah, so you are stuck with me now. I am live, Skiy, editing Skiy, I don't know. If you can't tell, I haven't really settled on what I call myself. So, what are we doing? Well, I've already laid out all of the plans in the intro to this. So what you're seeing me there on the left hand side, I've actually got the YouTube file open that we made in the very first episode, because I'm just remembering how I structure all the projects. And on the right hand side window, I'm setting up all of the ArgPass settings. They do change throughout the video, so don't be upset that that's not what they look like. And also, I changed some of those settings like 5 minutes ago, because I wanted to modify some of the behaviour. But yes, anyway. Also, there's going to be no cuts in my audio for this one, unlike the beginning, so yeah, you get lots of ums, but that is the charm, maybe, of who am I? Editing Skiy. I'm gonna call me Editing Skiy, because otherwise I have no idea what I am. Anyway, right, it's been like 4 minutes, and on the left-hand side, I have started to open and read the file that's on the right-hand side. This stays up for most of the recording. I'm constantly referring back to what the .mlt file structure is. So, yes, what you can see me there doing is reading through the file, finding all of the chain items, and then assigning them to what I'm about to create, which is a data class to store all of the song info. So I'm cross-referencing in a minute. I'm slightly jumping the gun here, but I'm cross-referencing all of the chain objects that we find within the file, and then for any of them that are found within the music subpath, which I will show in the live demonstration later. Yes, what was I thinking? For any of those that exist in the subpath for the music folder, we are adding as a valid song. So, because the playlist will contain multiple things. For example, for the recording of this episode, it contains the channel outro, it contains a couple of takes of the code editing, and it will contain music later, when we get there. But, you don't want to just stick the channel outro on the top as a video, as a background audio, and call it a day. So, yeah, we're doing some file shenanigans to figure out what songs are the actual songs. And also, if you look on the right-hand side, song lengths are stored as the out parameter, and the out parameter, annoyingly, is a hour, minute, second, millisecond string. So I'm just doing a little function there to convert that into a time delta from the Python datetime module. We use time deltas everywhere in this script. it's the most I've ever used them. It's probably the most I'll ever use them, actually. So the next step that we're doing here is finding markers, and markers are actually really lovely to find. There is a single marker containing struct in this file, which then has a list of every single marker. So it's a lot simpler than I was expecting it to be in order to actually find where all these positions are. So yes, we're doing that so that we can figure out where all of the positions that songs can be found in. And you also see every now and then I run the script and I flick over to the application log so that I can see all of my lovely output. For debugging purposes, of course, not just standard output. Because that will, that shows you what your program's doing. If you don't use the Python logging module, do it. What you just saw there, the quick little Python window that came up, I was just double checking my intuition on how Python sorts strings. Because, and this is a really annoying aspect, playlist items, objects, I suppose, in shortcut files have to have the ID of playlist number. And that number must always increment. So if you have playlist 1, and playlist 2, if you create another playlist, it has to be playlist 3. It can't be like playlist 7. So there is a small problem, though, of shortcut internally occasionally has objects that are named weirdly. For example, there were filters applied, and there's a filter 1, there's a filter 2, there's a filter 3, and then a filter 68. And the filter 68 was a filter on a single audio track, whereas filter 1, 2, and 3 were those applied to audio tracks. Sorry, not a single track, a single video. So these two things that I was doing is searching through all of the objects that you're looking for, either a filter or a playlist, finding the next one up by looking at sequential amounts. So for example, the playlist, it looked and it saw playlist 0, playlist 1, playlist 2, playlist 3, and then didn't see a playlist 4. So it said, the maximum ID is playlist 4. For the filters, it saw 1, 2, 3, 68, and so went, the next one must also be 4. It discarded the 68 because it wasn't consecutive. But the problem is that one of those filters might have been 22. So Python, in its infinite wisdom, would have sorted those as 1, 2, 22, 3. And so the script would automatically go, I can see 1 to 22 is not consecutive, ergo the next one must be 3, but 3 already exists. So that little window that propped up for a couple of seconds, like a minute ago, was me just verifying that Python does in fact do string sorting, it does it character by character, which is fine for strings, but when your string is alphanumeric, it doesn't really work, so yeah, I had to write a slightly annoying function using regex to pull out the digit and then sort by that and then return. But anyway, you don't really care about all of these details. Well, maybe you do because you're watching this video. But anyway, we are way back. Way further in the future than when I last commented on the code. So essentially what we're doing, we define positions that songs can be in the backtrack, or background music track, with markers. Now, the behavior I want is that any songs already in the track are respected. For example, if you've got a time lapse, you might want to put a song over the back of that so it lines up really nicely, and then you just populate the rest of it with assorted background music. So what I'm doing here is a kind of annoying way of figuring out where are all of the positions between markers, are there any songs between them, and then splitting or shifting the virtual marker positions such that songs are maintained without changing the positions of markers. Basically, like if there's a song inside the position we want to place new songs, then we create 2 bins either side of it. If a song overlaps, then we shrink it, and if there's no song there, then we don't care. That was a surprisingly large headache to figure out, but I got there eventually. It only took me 3 attempts. I say as if that's short. It took me half an hour. 3 attempts, about an attempt every 10 minutes. But yes, with these bins provided, we then also filter out all of the ones that are shorter than our shortest song, which I think in this example is 1 minute 24 seconds. There's no point looking to see if you can fit a 1 minute 30-second song into a 5-second bin, for example. I don't know why I said second French there, but here we are. So yes, at the end of that script you get only a single bin, as you might be able to see in the application log on the right hand side. But with this list of all of the valid positions that songs can be in, and I'm going to use bin because I was constantly thinking about the bin packing algorithm, which we use. Well, we don't use it for this, we use a random or stochastic version of it. So I'm going to call it bins. But yes, you can see that I'm writing this pack bin function, which essentially takes the start and end position and then randomly shuffles the songs, attempts to put them in the bin, and if their bin is perfectly full, then we're done. We return a success. If it's not, then you go back through the list 2 more times just to make sure that you didn't miss any shorter songs at the beginning that could fit. It's unlikely, but you know, you have to have some failure modes built in. And also we do this bin packing for each bin 5 times, and we take the best result, because it's random. Now, in a standard bin packing, you would take each one deterministically and try and place them in the... I forget if it's the smallest or the largest bin that they'll fit within. Well, in regular bin sorting, it would just be the first one that they fit in, but in bin packing, it would be the largest that they fit in. But I wanted random song choices so that no 2 executions of the script are identical, in theory. So, yeah, we do a stochastic method. You know, it's very Markov, if you're familiar with Markov chains and how they function. We just take 5 different iterations of the bin packing with its own random shuffling, and then you take the best result. So that is the one that the bin is perfectly filled, or closest to perfectly filled. Because, you know, if you have a minute 30 remaining in the bin, but you've used up all of your small songs, that's not going to be a very good packing. But if you do a random shuffle of all the songs and then you run it again, you might only end up with a 30-second gap at the end, which is more desirable, even if it's not perfect. So that's why we do that. And with that explanation, I've actually almost completely finished writing out the code that does that. And actually, no, I have finished writing out the code. I'm now writing the small amount of code that will convert our list of songs into the XML file structure that contains all of the songs. Because, you know, if the program doesn't understand how to write songs back in the way that Shortcut expects, then what's the point here? And you can see me, I'm messing around with XML formatting. I'm writing in... I started by writing some indentation function in order to get all of these looking nice, and then discarded that because turns out XML actually has an internal way of making everything look pretty. If you've seen any large pauses, like this one, that was perfectly timed. It's because I'm tabbed out reading the XML documentation. This is the 2nd time? I think this is the 2nd time I've ever used this module in Python. I don't interact with XML files at all. At work it's normally YAML. So, yeah, I'm tabbed out a lot trying to figure out what all of these weird things that you can do is. So, essentially this looks complex, it's really not. We just take a list of all of the songs that should be in the playlist, we sort them by their position, and then we alternate between adding a blank space between the start of this song and the end of the previous one, and then the song itself. And we make sure the filter is at the bottom of the list, just because that's how Shortcut has it. I don't know if that's required, but I'm copying the file structure. And now I'm finally, it is done. And I'm writing the function that will actually take this in-memory representation and put it onto disk, and you can see there I opened Shortcut and everything was white. That's because I've done this bit backwards. The tractor object, I suppose, there, that represents the main metadata, has to be at the bottom, I think. I don't know that for certain, but I'm pretty sure it has to be at the very bottom. And you can see me there, I'm playing around with the indentation function I mentioned about 2 minutes ago. But, yeah, I scrapped that. It takes me however long. I wasn't paying attention to the time at the top of the screen, and you shouldn't be either. Please don't. But, yes. I'm messing around trying to figure out where exactly that tractor object is, such that I can place my playlist in front of it. And there is one thing I forgot to do for about an hour. Inside that tractor metadata object, there is a list of tracks. For example, there's playlist 3, which is video track 3. I added the playlist that we created and then forgot to update the metadata to tell the Shortcut, oh yes, this playlist exists. So it's in memory, it's in the file, but Shortcut doesn't know it's meant to represent it, so it doesn't. So yeah, I have to fix that as well. And you can see I'm tabbing in and out between Shortcut and code very quickly because I'm making small changes, I'm seeing where they are, I'm moving markers around, and you can see very briefly, there it is working. So I'm now experimenting with making sure that we respect songs that already exist, and more importantly, that we don't select songs that already exist. Because we have the code set up such that any song placed by the code is unique, but we didn't before now, which is weird given we are so close to the end of this project. We didn't respect songs that were already in the file, despite the fact that that was literally one of the first things I thought about when making this. But anyway, we got there eventually. So now it works. It just works, so I can give you a live demonstration in a bit. But I'm going along, I'm fixing some linting errors, I'm cleaning up the project, I'm making it look presentable. And that's kind of it. Thank you for joining me on this live journey. I hope it wasn't too tedious. So I will see you for a demonstration. Right, hello. It's me. I'm live. I've got the code over here, don't worry. But yes, I am going to demonstrate quickly how we even use this script. So in front of you is the Mars First Logistics 13 project. It is very empty at the moment because all I have done is found where the Timelapse section is, where we're building, and added in my outro and done a little bit of a talking intro. So I've manually placed a bunch of songs out on the timeline, which is very old school. That took me a long time to do. So what I'm instead going to do is the slightly more modern version using my script. I'm going to delete all of these things. So I'm going to keep this, this little section there where I'm running the time lapse because I like how that song sounds. But I want to place some music out. So, I'm going to find where my intro ends rather. I'm going to say I want to start placing background music there. And I want to make sure I don't overlap with the outro. So I'm going to place some marker there. And now, oh no, not that one, that one. So now I'm going to get our script. Oh, no, I'm going to save the file. I'm going to make sure that all of our songs that we want are within this thing. I'm going to bring our code editor over. We're going to execute the script, which is Nox background music. And we're going to give it the project file path, which is videos projects MFL 13. You don't have to specify the exact file path, you can just give it the folder and it will find the project within it. We need to provide it at least one music folder. You can provide multiple music folders if you have specified, say you have a second one that might be, I don't know, music and then uncaptioned songs. Oh, it's lowercase. This is if you have multiple folders that contain music that you've imported into Shortcut and you want them to find all of them. Basically, I think I explained in the time lapse for this current episode, not for MFL 13, of course, but when you pass through the playlist here, there's no way of telling what is and isn't valid music, so you give it a file path that all of them share. So if you've imported from multiple file paths, then you also need to tell the program that you're importing from multiple file paths. So I'm also going to say track name v3. We already have this track set up for some music, but I'm also actually going to delete this filter. There we go, so that we can see that the script actually does that itself. Yes, we've already set up this track. We have our time-lapse music in place. So there. I'm also just going to show there is a dry run option. If all you want to see is I cannot spell, it's not dash dash background music, it's dash dash space background music. Yeah, so there is a dry run option if you just want to see what the script spits out. So you run the script, and because we said dry run, it will start to populate the timeline with this songs, but we did not tell it to do so. Well, okay, we told it to figure this out, but else log.info project on disk has not been modified. Run without dry run set to make changes. Yes, we probably should have told the user that, but that's okay. We're doing live debugging as well. That's exciting. So you can see that. So what I'm instead going to do, slightly scarily, actually, were the songs? I only found 35 songs. What? There were 46. What is this? I don't know. Anyway, I'll figure this out later. Yes, the execution here placed all of these songs in that order. Our execution earlier placed all of these songs in that order, and it's a different order, which is important. So what I'm now going to do, run it without dry run mode, and the program will spit out very similar stuff. You know, it says the timeline contained 13 songs. It's just because of the different song lengths when we inserted them in. Still only 35 songs. That's weird. I'll need to double check the problem there. So there we go. The script has run. Now we need to go to Project, New. We'll reopen MFL 13. And ta-da! Like magic, the timeline is populated. Isn't that amazing? That was so simple. Instead, what we could also do is not supply the track name. So the program will now just insert a new background track on top of this, which is great. So let's file, let's new, let's project MFL 13. Ta-da! See, it's automatically filled background music for the entire song. The entire video. But of course, I didn't want it to be in the entire video. That's annoying. It's not respected my intro. So let's place a marker there for the intro. And let's say actually I want to keep this time-lapse music track separate from the background music track, so that it doesn't get this filter applied to it, because maybe I actually quite like how the sound of this music is. Let's place a marker before and after it. And let's say I actually don't mind if the song overlaps. So let's place, if you have an odd number of markers, the script will assume there is one at the very end of the track, as if you had done that. I can say, rather than adding a marker for the outro like I did previously, I'm going to say, you know what, it's fine. We can have music over the back of it. So let us save the project again, go back to our script, run it again, and because we're doing the same project, we can have the same thing here. Let us run, timeline contained 13 songs, exciting. Project MFL 13. And there you go, see, it has placed the songs, it has respected the marker, and it has not respected the outro because we didn't put a marker there. So there we go, that was so easy. And also this music, we can see it has the filter applied of -20 decibels. So we get things like, you know, is playing off the nature and then getting a bit addicted. So yes, I agree. We are back. It is getting addicted, and there's our song over the top. Isn't that exciting? I would say that's exciting. So thank you all for seeing this project of mine. There isn't transparency here, which is weird. I will need to debug that. But the code that you will be able to edit and see, and etc., will be fixed for this, at least. So heading back, yes, I'll make some modifications here to make sure that this all works. But anyway, it will be in the standard place with the standard stuff. So fix this and push it, and I will merge that later. So yes, thank you all so much for watching. I hope this was interesting, I hope it was informative, and that this might actually help you. If you use shortcuts, you want background music, and you don't want to have to apply it every single time, then yeah, I hope this is useful. Also, we can see that Great Hope has been applied twice, because I didn't tell it to use video track 3, so it didn't see that Great Hope was already in the thing. So it just applied it there. This is one of the caveats if you use a separate video track to this, which is why I prefer to have a single one. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another video, for example, Mars vs. Logistics 13, when I finish editing this one down. So, for those of you who like MFL, it's back. Don't worry, it's not Transport Fever all the time. But yes, I've done this outro like 4 times now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all again next time.